everybody, and welcome back to the Wizard Sleeve. Yes, guys, I thought I'd bring the Wizard Sleeve episodes back a little bit because we're talking fantasy now, guys. Basically, I decided to jack in my Forces of Nature Kings of War army, mainly because I didn't really have anyone to play it with. But then my friend opened up a local hobby store near mine, and now he does romantic stuff. And a couple of my friends are thinking about getting into Kings of War. And I thought to myself, well, what am I gonna do? I mean, I could continue with my Forces of Nature army, but I was like, I want to get back to my roots of wargaming a little bit. And a few of you guys probably know this story. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've probably told you this story before. Basically, guys, I used to have a undead army, and long story short, just in case you have heard it before, I collected. I just collected and painted for the joy of collecting and painting and building. However, I decided I wanted to have a game of fantasy. This is back in the day. This is back in like 4th edition fantasy, maybe before that, I can't quite remember. It was the one when all the vampires in the Vampire Counts book, there was like Strigoi, Necrarch, Blood Dragon, Von Karstein, Larmin, when all the different vampires had the different bloodlines and things like that, and they were all playable vampires in the actual game. Now, I had this huge undead army. I had like 40 odd zombies, 40 odd skeletons, loads of like every different kind of vampire, fell bats, all that kind of good stuff, ghouls, the lot, the works kind of thing. My friend decided to give me a game. He was like, oh yeah, I'll teach you how to play, quote unquote. However, what I didn't know is that he was using dwarves, and dwarves pretty much negate magic, and vampire counts were very dependent on magic. So needless to say, he absolutely destroyed me. It was a case of, alright, I want to cast this spell, because the whole magic side of things was what actually got me rather intrigued into Warhammer Fantasy, because Psychic wasn't really that big for me in Warhammer 40,000 at the time. So it was a case of, I couldn't do anything. It was a case of, I want to raise these zombies, and he was like, no you can't, because I have like 20 Dispel dice a turn. So basically I ended up giving up on the third turn, and then all my vampire count stuff went in a box and sat in my loft for about a decade. But yeah, since then, my vampire counts collection has kind of dwindled and been sold and picked apart and stuff like that. However, I do have a few little bits, and as you can tell, guys, I'm going to be doing a Mantic Kings of War Undead army. These are basically the models that survived the Great Purge. These are like the last ones that I actually have that I could find, that I could rustle up for you. I know for a fact I've sold a bunch of these. I know for a fact I think I gave away Vlad Von Karstein that goes with Isabella here. I used to have the mounted Necrarch Vampire, which was this guy, and I never actually had Heimlich Hemlar, which he didn't go with Krell, you could buy him separately, but there's a story behind this, guys. I'm going to tell you about this one in a second, so we're just going to pop him over here for now. So I'm basically going to go undead, and it's cool because it means I get to do vampires, and I get to paint something a little bit different. Now, I have 2 vampire models here, which means I don't have to actually spend money and buy additional vampire models. I've got a Larmian vampire, which technically, a Von Karstein vampire, which is Isabella Von Karstein, Vlad's wife, who is currently resurrected and then died again in the end times or something, I can't quite remember. We have a Necrarch vampire here. I will be going with the Necrarch vampire as my vampire for Kings of War. Let's just get a zoom in on this fucking horrendous paint job that I did of him. This is a very, very old paint job, as you can see by all the chips and stuff, and he's also missing a hand. However, I believe that I can replace that hand with like a zombie hand from Kings of War. It's just the right kind of size for it. So guys, for those of you that aren't aware, Necrarch vampires are the strongest vampires magically in the Warhammer Fantasy universe. So they basically are holed up in these gigantic towers, and they basically hoard knowledge of the undying, and hoard knowledge of like the undead and great tomes of Nagash and things like that. That doesn't mean that they're not good in combat. Vampires are very, very good in combat. Even the weakest ones, which are the Necrarch, combat-wise, they are the weakest, but they could still snap a man's neck and crush a man's skull in like a single blow. So I'm going to be using this guy. I'm tempted to redo... Look at the freaking eyes. God damn. The finest painted miniatures in all the land. What the fuck was I thinking? Obviously, this was like, maybe, 12, 13-year-old me? This is like, what... going almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago almost, I painted this thing. It would be very nice, though, to redo the colour scheme, just with the newer techniques that I have, and I think I might do this. I might give this a new lease on life. But he's actually probably going to end up going into some cellulose thinners for a little while, so that I can get rid of the horrible paint job that's on him. And I might use this fellow here as something, just for a bit of nostalgia. This is a Graveguard model. Let's just take a look at Isabella with the fucking awful hair. I think there was a new Isabella model made, which was a lot better. Like, what the hell is she wearing here? Look like she's wearing a curtain pole, for fuck's sake. Now, this is Krell. This is a pretty interesting miniature, actually, for numerous reasons. First and foremost, its lore and backstory. Krell is an undead Chaos Lord brought back by the Chaos Necromancer Heinrich Hemlar. Now, I believe at the time, Krell and maybe Heinrich Hemlar could be used for both Chaos and Vampire counts, which was quite interesting to have multi-use models back then. I love how classic he looks. This was kind of when stuff still had that classic cheesy kind of appearance. However, it was still ultimately totally badass looking. He doesn't have the comedy skull face. He kind of has a really cool looking skull face there. However, sadly, I have lost his back banner, so I'm going to have to put a blob of green stuff in there. But I think I'm going to use him as a white king or a white lord or something for Kings of War. Like I said, I've not got the rule book, so I don't have a clue on any of the units, so to speak. I've got a bunch of zombies on the go, which you'll see in a future episode. But yeah, guys, so this model has special significance to me, and I thought I lost it for the longest time. Basically, this was given to me by one of my old friends, and when I say by one of my old friends, I mean in past tense. Basically, me and him used to go to Games Workshop a lot of the time when we were younger, when we were in high school and stuff, and it was a case of there was, what was it now? This was when they went out of production, I believe. He basically managed to pick these up in a bargain bin, like a Lucky Dip type thing. He managed to pick up a Krell and a Heinrich Hemlar, and at the time I thought Krell was absolutely awesome, but I didn't have access to mail order, didn't have access to anything online, so that was it. I couldn't get Krell at all. I couldn't get Krell. I think you could still get Heinrich Hemlar, but he went out of production. You can still get the original cast of Heinrich Hemlar from the Games Workshop website. So the original cast just is in shite cast rather than in the white metal that we all know and love. It's a case of this model doesn't actually belong to me. In fact, it did belong to my friend. He gave this to me because I thought, we both kind of like outgrew it. He outgrew it before me, so he gave a lot of his stuff away, and this was one of the things that he actually gave me. Sadly, my friend that gave me this is no longer with us. He sadly committed suicide a long while ago. So this has a special significance for me, this miniature, because it's like just a little personal little friendship thing, because he gave it to me. And it did have a paint job on it. It wasn't the best paint job. It was one of the best paint jobs I did for the time, but he has since been stripped, and I will be painting this guy up to be awesome, and to basically just, be a nice little centrepiece for my army. A lovely bit of nostalgia for gaming and my own personal history as well. But yeah, so what we're going to do in a future episode, guys, we're going to be seeing this guy painted. I just thought I'd show you and tell you my direction of where I'm going to go for the fantasy stuff that I'm going to be doing, and just a nice little tidbit and a nice little bit of history right there, guys. Let's actually look at this model for a second. It has lots of really, really lovely detail. I mean, even the armour here is still got the original mould lines on it, for Christ's sake. Jesus Christ. Obviously, that's where his back banner went. His axe is really cool. I remember thinking it was really awesome. Just how chunky it was, but I liked how the blade kind of was as well. It has like this weird like fur woody effect going around here near the spike. And then like the front, obviously we've got the Chaos Undivided Star on his breastplate, and we got like cool like knee pads and things. It's going to be really interesting to paint it up and see if I can give like a modern paint job to this old miniature. And I remember originally I did give him he had a shield in this hand as well, because it was perfect. You could just stick a shield on the back of his hand. It just added a little bit more dimension to the miniature. And however, I've come to really like the cheesy pose that he's in. He's just like, I'll get you, living people. And then he probably utters something like, as you are, we once were. As we are, you shall be. But anyway, so that's it for this little episode of the Wizard Sleeve. Just thought I'd share that little story with you and just a bit of just have a little bit of a chat about vampire counts and stuff like that. It'd be cool. It's going to be cool to get some of the Kings of War models and maybe some of the Warhammer Fantasy models as well. Oh, another thing, guys, you'll not believe it. This is really stupid, right? I never ever in a million years thought that I would have to scrape and scrounge around for 2 square bases, for the love of fucking Christ. It's literally a case of, oh yeah, I never use square bases for anything, yeah, so I must have loads stashed about somewhere. Could I find them? No, I had to salvage these off of 2 other random fantasy miniatures that I had just in the drawer of Purgatory somewhere. And by the way, the drawer of Purgatory is an actual real thing. It's actually up there. Purgatory! That's where models go to die. But yeah, guys, so I have to scrounge around for these bases because I want them to be able to be put in the regiments and stuff. For Kings of War, obviously it's going to fit in there a little bit better, and then like that. Now my plan for a lot of these is to get neodymiums and put the neodymiums in the bases. You know, some long square ones. That way, what I'm going to do in the movement trays, I'm going to get the ones with the little inlays. So what I can do, I can put neodymiums in the tray, cover them with a surface, like a substrate of, like, you know, I don't know, basing material and PVA glue, like, mixed up like a paste. That way the magnets will be held in there fast, and it means that I can just, like, basically go along and plop these on a magnet. That way they won't fall off when they move, and I can easily interchange them and have them on their own if needs be. But anyway, guys, I digress. That is just a little brief introduction as to what I'm going to be doing now in the whole fantasy type stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. Any questions, please pop them in the doobly-doo down below. And yeah, guys, I will see you in the next episode, in the next video that I put out. So, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page. Don't forget to like, favourite, and subscribe if you're new and it's the first time you're seeing this. So, guys, I will leave you now. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. See you now, and goodbye.